Well, Merry Christmas to you all. What a gift it is to see you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're close. We are this close. We're on the cusp of Christmas. We're on the edge of the darkness, and we are on the threshold of a great light. As you know, today is the last Sunday of Advent. It's Christmas Eve, which means tomorrow, the great light dawns. Tomorrow is Christmas Day, the day that Jesus, the one that we call Emmanuel, God with us, the day that he came in the flesh to heal, to restore, to redeem. He entered into the darkness and the gloom to make things right. You know, tomorrow changed everything. I know that sounds like I mixed up my tenses there a little bit. I muddy my words sometimes, but I say that intentionally. Tomorrow changed everything. See, tomorrow's not simply a day of the adrenaline rush of opening long-awaited presents. I think we realize that. Tomorrow's not simply a day full of the physical pleasures of eating some good food or being with some family friends and some loved ones. It's something more cosmic. It's something grand, something bigger than we can control or box with our minds. Or you might say this way, this comes from the mouth of an iconic Christmas figure of great theological savvy. It's something ginormous. It's something really, really big. It is the day in which the darkness cracked. It is the day in which the light of heaven invaded the gloom of earth, the day the Son of God took on flesh, the day rejoicing entered into the occupied territory of an embattled world. It was the day that joy came into the world in a brand new way. It is the day a weary world started to rejoice, a rejoicing that will go on and on and on without end. Now, Advent, the 4 weeks prior to Christmas, this season is a season of longing. It's a season of waiting. We get this word Advent from the Latin word Adventus, and it just means arrival or coming. And it's talking about the arrival of the King. And you can think of it in at least two senses, and those two senses are, one, the first coming of Jesus. It's called the incarnation, which is a big word, but that simply means that he came in the flesh. Incarnation. Think of the word carne asada. Okay? Meat, flesh. And I don't say that to be crass or to minimize. I say that to show the actual deep, wild scandal of Christmas. That he came in the flesh. God would come in the flesh. And he came as a vulnerable infant. That is his first coming. And then there is the second coming, the second advent, the return of the King, when he comes back not as a child this time, but as the ruling and reigning King who will wipe away every tear. Now, through this Advent season, we have been looking at the Psalms that point us to King Jesus. And so today our Christmas Eve text is Psalm 98. And that might come as a surprise to you. Maybe that seems strange. A psalm on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. Why not a gospel account? Why not one of the narratives of Jesus' birth? Well, there's a lot of strangeness to Christmas. I think we just need to be aware of that. At least there should be a strangeness to Christmas. It's a rather surprising and strange thing, at least I think, that God the Son would be born to a virgin named Mary in a backwater town. See, Christmas is at its heart a staggering miracle that should make the mind bend just a bit. It should make hearts 2 times too small swell 3 sizes in one day. It should. And that's a strange and wonderful thing when the heart comes alive. So maybe Psalm 98 as our Christmas text is a bit unexpected and unlikely and a bit surprising. That's okay. It's a great one, and it's got a lot of light to shed for us on who this God is. Now, this unexpected nature of the psalm turns my mind to the unexpected nature of the song, Joy to the World. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but the song Joy to the World, this famous Christmas song, is actually an unlikely and unexpected Christmas song. It was never meant to be a Christmas song. It wasn't written to be a Christmas song. See, originally it was written in 1719 by Isaac Watts, who was a minister and who was a poet. But it didn't really catch life until about a century later. So in 1858, there's a man named Lowell Mason, 1848, Lowell Mason, a Bostonian, actually brought new life to this old song. Mason was interesting. You could say that he was something of a 1800s-style DJ, producer, and musician, because he sampled George Frederick Handel's famous song, The Messiah, which was written in 1741. So he sampled that, and he remixed the melodies and the harmonies from that, and he added the lyrical components from Isaac Watts, and there you go. Joy to the World, the beloved Christmas classic. So here's the thing about the song, though. Joy to the World is about the arrival of the King, the one who's coming back to rule and reign. It's about the second advent of Jesus, the King's return. And he wrote the song based upon the Psalm. Well, can you guess what Psalm? All right, Psalm 98, which was written circa 1000 BC. So in short, Joy to the World is a surprising remix Christmas hymn based on an Old Testament psalm from the Bronze Iron Age, pointing to Jesus, the King, the Messiah to come, set to musical samples and fragments written in England by a German and then remixed together in the United States, in Boston of all places. Right? So there is the simple genealogy of the song Joy to the World. But why does it have the staying power? Like, why the gravity? Why does it still move us when we sing it? Why joy to the world? Why joy to the world? Or as O Holy Night says, the weary world rejoices. Why? And how? How do the weary rejoice? Well, it's because of what Christmas truly is. Because of the incarnation, the Son of God taking on flesh. So let's do this. Let's open up Psalm 98 a bit to see what it holds and to see what kind of light it will shed on the Christmas story for us. So Psalm 98, verses 1 through 3. Oh, sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm have worked salvation for him. The Lord has made known his salvation. He has revealed his righteousness in the sight of the nations. He has remembered his steadfast love and faithfulness to the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Now, obviously, at the start, the psalm calls us to sing a new song, to rejoice with the entirety of our being, with the intake of our breath, with our vocal cords dancing, with lyrics on our lips, and with melody and harmony rising in the air from our bodies. And I'm sure you've noticed this before, but joyful people just instinctively sing. They instinctively sing. It's like a reflex. So you've probably had this happen before, where somebody comes into the office, or maybe they come bounding down the stairs in your home and into the kitchen, and they're whistling and they're humming or they're singing, and you go, what has you in such a good mood, right? It's just instinctive. We know that something joyful inside is expressing itself. Joy spills out of the soul through song. Joy's too powerful. It's too big. It's too wide and deep to be bottled up in hearts and lungs. So joy it spills out and it bubbles over. Why the joyful singing here? Well, it's because of who God is and what God's done, and what God's done that reveals ultimately who he is to us, his people, his creatures, his creation. And it's because God has done marvelous things. What a great sentence, what a great phrase. God has done marvelous things. Now, this phrase, marvelous things, is actually a technical term, or it's a reference in Scripture to God's divine intervention in history. God has divinely intervened in history, and when this term is used, it's most often used referring to the Exodus, right? When God intervened on behalf of his people, bringing his people out of slavery, out from under the tyranny of a cruel taskmaster. splitting a sea wide open that they would go through a sea. And then he provided food from heaven and drink from a rock, and he provided his presence to his people. He has done marvelous things. He's intervened in history. And you just take that back and push it all the way to the beginning. God has done marvelous things. He has breathed the splendors of creation into existence. A marvelous thing. He has taken earth, mud, clay, and mixed it with divine breath and made us in his image. A marvelous thing. He has been patient with human mutiny and revolt and sin. He has promised redemption for a rebellious people, and he has redeemed his people in history from slavery through the Exodus, the Moses story that points us to the true Redeemer, Jesus. He provided that food in the wilderness and that drink in the wasteland. And he brought then his people into the promised land and steered their path towards the ultimate events of redemption. And then he stayed faithful while his people showed their skill and their savvy in being unfaithful and being grumblers. And then he did the most marvelous thing, the most miraculous thing. He did, as Eugene Peterson once said, he moved into the neighborhood. He dove into the darkness. He took on flesh. The Son of God came to earth, born fully human and fully divine, to do what we could not do for ourselves. That's what a hero is, right? That's what a hero does. A hero does for us what we cannot do, and the Messiah is the long-awaited hero. Now, I should note two things here regarding this. Those two things are the historicity and the holy wonder. The historicity of this and the holy wonder. Two marvelous things. So first, the historicity. God has done. He has done marvelous things. He has intervened in history. The Bible is the history of redemption that shows who God is. It's God's self-revelation showing how he has acted, what he's done, what he's doing, what he will do. And so faith in Jesus is not this abstract thing. It's not just some philosophy that was thought up that we think about. It's not just some moral grid, and it's not some mere theory. It's embodied. It is a faith that is made up of the dust and mud and the bone and blood and muscle of history. Particular things happen to particular people in particular places at particular times. It's historic. It's not a fable that we use just to bring some made-up meaning to our lives. But it comes from the long wind of history and God's intervention. The second thing is holy wonder. Holy wonder. These things that he's done are marvelous things. In other words, there is a supernatural reality to existence, and our hearts are eternity-shaped, and they are aimed at forever, and we long for something wonderful our way to come, don't we? We long for something bigger than us and better than us and bright and beautiful to come and to intervene. And if I could say it this way, we actually want to be haunted. We want to be haunted by something glorious and beautiful and uncanny, something from beyond the situation that we're in. I mean, think about it. Charles Dickens' classic, The Christmas Carol, every year just keeps coming back. Why? You have this weird collision of ghosts and haunting and merriment and a transformation of a soul and renewal and love and compassion going out. It's the collision of these things. We long for the otherworldly. We ache for the miraculous, don't we? Don't you? Maybe think about it this way. Maybe you've had this thought before. Maybe you've been driving along on I'd say a cold winter December night, but we're in California here, and our winters are not all that cold, right? So we're driving along on a cold, dark December night, and then this thought comes to you, like, what makes them do this? What makes them do this? Why string up these lights? Maybe you've seen a pathetic-looking single strand of lights barely clinging to a barren tree in a front yard. Or maybe it's just a single strand of lights kind of haphazardly thrown up on a porch. Or maybe it's a sad-looking, sagging square in somebody's window in their bedroom. And you just think, like, why? Why the effort for such a radically unimpressive glow? Why? Well, could it be that what causes people to put up one single strand of light is this impulse for something bright to push against the darkness of the night? Could it be a form of revolt against the darkness in the world? Might it be this irrepressible desire for something extraordinary to invade our ordinary realm, the mundane and the monotony of things? Could it be that we are resisting the dark with every LED bulb we put up, crying out with our little actions? There has to be more. There's got to be something more than this. We need a miracle. See, we need a miracle. And the long, winding tale of damage and glory that we call history needs a miracle. And Christmas is the collision of this history and this holy wonder together in the tiny little baby toes and the warm breaths and the milk-craving cry of an infant who does not know how to use his limbs because his nervous system is still starting to fire outside of the womb, and he's all clumsy and flailing around trying to respond to the world that he was born into in this small backwater village called Bethlehem, a shepherd's town. History and wonder come colliding together. In the words of the poet W.H. Auden, how could the eternal do a temporal act, the infinite become a finite fact? Nothing can save us that is possible. We who must die demand a miracle. How? How could the eternal do a temporal act, the infinite become a finite fact? Nothing can save us that is possible. We who must die demand a miracle. In other words, he's saying, like another poet said, how can the immensity of God be cloistered into a woman's womb? How can this creator become a human being? And then he goes on to say, nothing can save us that is possible. In other words, we cannot save ourselves. The situation is too big and wide and deep. We cannot save ourselves from the darkness within and the darkness without. We who must die demand a miracle to bring us life. God's love and his grace showed up in the flesh to redeem and to restore. And so the question then again, why? Why joy to the world at Christmas? Well, because there's simply no salvation without the marvel of Jesus Christ's birth. There's no salvation without the birth. No joy of union with God, no peace for our souls or for the groaning of creation, unless there's the incarnation. So if you follow the glorious logic, it simply goes as follows. No salvation without Jesus saving us from our sins. No saving us from our sins without the cross and the empty tomb. No cross and empty tomb without infant Jesus in the cradle. No Christmas, no Easter, no cross without the manger. There's no salvation and no redemption, no crucifixion, and no resurrection without the incarnation. The marvel and the miracle of the Son of God taking on flesh. Now, this is what verse 2 of our psalm is getting at. Jesus came, and in so doing, the Lord has made known his salvation. He has revealed his righteousness in the sight of the nations. He came to save all peoples across this world of his, all nations, all tribes, all tongues, all cultures. In fact, this is what God had promised. Remember, there was a guy named Abraham, and God had this relationship with Abraham and told Abraham that through you and through your family, I will bless all the world, all tribes, all tongues, all peoples, all nations. And we see this here now in verse 3, link Psalm 98, verse 3 to this. He has remembered his steadfast love and faithfulness to the house of Israel. God has made promises to his people throughout the centuries. And then all the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Jesus stepped onto the scene, was lifted up on the cross, rose from the dead, and the earth shook with the good news. And like concentric circles radiating out from Jerusalem was the good news and the power and of the gospel of this God, that he is king. So joy to the world. God has done marvelous things. He's brought a Savior into the world through Israel. Christmas is the marvelous miracle of grace, taking on flesh in the person of Jesus of Nazareth, born in Bethlehem. Not a mere theory, but a man and a God. Now, verses 4 through 6, they tell us a proper response to this marvelous news. Look at verses 4 through 6. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Break forth into joyous song and sing praises. Sing praises to the Lord with the lyre. The lyre is not a deceptive person that's standing next to you in the choir, okay? The lyre is a stringed instrument, kind of like a harp, ancient guitar. So sing praises to the Lord with the lyre and the sound of melody, with trumpets and the sound of the horn. Make a joyful noise before the King, the Lord. That's the word Yahweh, God. So like the angels of the Christmas story, like the shepherds who rejoice in the Christmas story, or like Mary who rejoices when the angel comes and tells her of the good news of Jesus being with her, we are to rejoice. We are to make a joyful noise, to respond with our lives, to blow those trumpets and those horns and those clarinets and those saxophones and the recorders, or whatever it is, or to strum those strings, to make that guitar or that bass or that cello or the violin of your life sing with gladness. And this is to be done unto the Lord, unto the King, unto Yahweh. So here's yet another reason for joy to the world to be a thing. Because Jesus didn't just enter into this world and forgive us from past sins, wipe the slate clean and go, okay, be a good boy or good girl from now on, and then evacuate and then be done. No. He's ruling and he's reigning and sitting on the throne of the universe. He is God and King who rules now and forever. And that is good news, to have a benevolent and eternal, gracious, loving, and compassionate King. Joy to the world. The Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. And then the next few verses show us the goodness and the power of this King. Look at verses 7 through 9. It says, let the sea roar and all that fills it, the world and those who dwell in it. Let the rivers clap their hands. Let the hills sing for joy together before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the earth with righteousness and the peoples with equity. See, this Christmas King who has come and done marvelous things. He's king over all of creation, not just some wispy part of us that we call soul or spirit, but he's king over all of creation. And his kingdom of hope, peace, joy, and love, all the different facets of Advent are woven together as he redeems and restores this weary world and all creation. And we get this incredible poetry here, this poetic language. And it's not poetic just to make you feel good. It's actually trying to get at an incredibly deep truth, that he cares about you and your body and this creation that he made, because he made it all to radiate and to reflect his glory. He cares about this world and will restore all things. And so this king is so great that the tides of the Pacific, they cheer for him. The ocean waves of the Atlantic, they bow down before him. The rivers applaud him as their waters run from the Sierra summits down into the receiving seas, the mountains. And the hills form a choir, singing in harmony about his majesty. So why joy to the world? Because this King Jesus is at work restoring all of creation. And I don't think I'm going to have to convince you very hard, but creation is creaking and groaning. Your bodies, my body, are creaking and groaning. Some of your bodies are creaking and groaning more than others. Some of your families this year are groaning. Some of your hearts are like timbers creaking because it just all hurts. He will restore and redeem all things. The groaning and creaking will turn into gladness and singing. It will turn into gladness and singing, my friends. Well, this leads us now to the last line of the psalm. That's a good one. Verse 9. It says, He will judge the world with righteousness and the peoples with equity. Do you ever look out at the world or look down at your phone and scroll and then just respond with, this should not be? You read another headline and you go, how can such injustices roll on? Someone should do something. Will this evil not be put to an end? This hate must end. These death tolls, they have to stop. This cycle of revenge and bloodshed, it has to be broken. This poverty, how can this stay? I know you can resonate with that because we all live in this world. So it's all too painful and personally true. But it's because of Christmas that we're not stuck in the gloom of these things, in the perpetual cycle of a darkness that will never end. Because Jesus, the King who came as a baby, is coming back as the one who will wipe away every tear. And so, again, why joy to the world? Because this Jesus, He will judge the world in righteousness and the peoples with equity. Well, what does that mean? It means He will do all the things that are right and good. This means that all that He will do will be beautiful and true, that no evil will go undealt with, that no injustice is going to be forgotten about. This means that hate will not win, but love will triumph. This means that death will not have the last word, but resurrection life will win. It means what Juliana of Norwich said, that all shall be well. All shall be well. And all matter of things shall be well. And in the meantime, His kingdom spreads and grows and pushes back the darkness and resists the darkness like light spreading. His grace and His mercy and His redeeming good news of who He is and what He's done spreads through His people, His church, by the power of the Spirit. And vulnerability and compassion and love and sacrifice and truth roll on. Now, I should say this before we bring this portion to a close. Every year we are in danger. Every year we are in danger of sentimentalizing Christmas, taming it, so to speak, rather than being scandalized by it. It's made safe. We're inoculated against its greatness. It's gilded with glitter. It's declawed with distraction, blunted, watered down, normalized. Use whatever words you want. But in truth, Christmas is scandalizing. It's shocking. It's sacred. It should act like smelling salts to us at the end of the year of what's really going on in this world. Christmas is a divine rescue mission signaled by the cry of a baby. I mean, perfect. Not an interruption, but an intervention. He comes into this world, cries His first breath, and warms the coldness with that breath, the same breath that will then come out on a cross. The baby, born to live that He might die. Born into the gloom and ache of a sin-riddled world, He invaded this earth by the strangest weapons. He invaded this battleground by the strangest weapons, the weapons of frailty, vulnerability, humility, refusing to strike back, self-sacrifice, compassion. These are the weapons against the darkness that our humble King wielded. He took on humanity. He entered the ache. He became acquainted with our grief. He took on a life of splinters and tears and labors and heartache, all the stuff you guys know too well. All that he might rescue us from the darkness of evil and sin out there and in here. So why joy to the world? So why joy to the world? Well, because things will not always be as they now are. Because a good and loving God is on the move, bringing joy to a weary world, because he has come and he will come again. So ultimately, why joy to the world? Because of God's great love for you in this world. I think we're in danger of often forgetting that John 3:16, you know the verse, the one on placards, right? The one everywhere? That John 3:16 is a powerful Christmas text, and we have not plumbed its heights or depths. We've not exhausted it. You know it, right? Maybe you do. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever would believe in him or trust in him might not what? Perish, but have eternal life. Without Christmas, we all would perish. There would be no hope of resurrection life. Without Christmas, we would perish. But because of Christmas, because of Jesus and his love for us and his coming Spirit, there is resurrection life. There is hope. As the song says, the wonders of his what? The wonders of his love. The wonders of his love. And so, friends, if you're a follower of Jesus, just a brief reminder, remember this love that has saved you. Remember this love that has called you from death to life. Remember this sacrificial love that entered into this world through the breath of a child that has called you from the darkness into the light. And may you live with a gratitude and a joy in your soul that makes the world go, what? Why would they bother singing these praises to this king? It's just like this silly little string of light against the darkness. It's because you know that he came and he's coming back. And nothing is now the same. And if you're not a follower of Jesus, my friend, please know this. This God came in a strange way into a dark place. He was willing to be born into a manger in a strange and dark world because his love for us. He enters into the strangest and darkest of places. So whatever your weariness is that your soul is carrying, whatever your weariness is that has come to you this year, know that it's not a place too dark or too strange for the King of creation to enter into, to save you, to be with you. For he makes the blessings flow far as the curse is found. So turn to him. Turn to him and live. So my friends, we're going to continue to rejoice and sing. Right? Whatever you're going through, he, Emmanuel, is right there with you. So joy to the world. The Lord has come. Let the earth receive her King. For he's done marvelous things, this King of love and this King of light.